Hey, what's up, guys? So, in this video today, I'm going to talk about how to structure your delivery and what tasks you have to do every single day, and how to, most importantly, make sure you're organized in your delivery so that nothing slips through, right? You're not thinking, oh, I need to follow up with this person to make sure they pay me. Oh, I need to make sure that this person comes back to the program to do the things. Oh, how do I know if somebody's doing well in the program or not? All these questions will be answered so that you're not overthinking your delivery or making decisions in the moment. And instead, you have a clear system that allows and tells you exactly what you have to do at each single point, right? So you don't overthink it. Let's get straight into it. So I have four main documents that I shared with you inside of the training. So let's look over those. And these are the four documents. Okay. So we have the graduation script template. Okay. So this is the script that you want to go through when you have a graduation call. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's the call that happens at the end of the first initial process that you have with people, right? So if your program is 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, or 6 months, well, you want to have that that call at the end for you to collect the testimonial and close them into the back end offer, which we'll talk about in a second. Then we have the clients tracker template. And this template is basically a way for you to track all of your clients, their stages, what's happening with everything. And then ultimately, what payments are due and a bunch of stuff like that. Okay. And when they're going to end their program as well. Then we have the head coach SOPs. Now, you as your own head coach in the beginning, you will be doing all of these tasks, but eventually you can pass this on to an actual head coach or a CSM that will take over some, if not all, of these tasks. And then finally, we have the roadmap for clients template. And this is basically for the onboarding calls, right? For you to give them direction on what are the next steps so they know exactly what they have to do, what to expect, and you get basically their commitment on the journey. Okay. So all these four docs are very, very important in order for you to be able to really run your delivery properly. And trust me, there's literally nothing else that you would need. If there is in the future, and if there's something I see that is missing, I'll probably add to each of these documents. But that should be it. So let's get straight into the first one. Let's start with this one, and there's a reason for that, but no worries. We'll see it in a second. So what is this? This is basically a tracker. That's all it is. Okay, it's like a CRM for your backend to make sure that every single person is being watched and you know exactly what's happening with them. Okay. So let's start on the left. You have the name of the person, then you have the email, you have the onboarding date. Okay. This is not when you close them, this is when you onboard them. Okay. And you only put somebody here when they're officially starting the program. So it means they paid already the minimum amount in order to be able to join the program, and they've committed to an installment sequence in case that they haven't paid in full, right? So you have the onboarding call, you have the graduation call, which will be typically 3, 4, 5, or 6 months after the initial onboarding call, depending on how long your program is. Okay. So you always want to put that here. Then you have the coaching doc, the link of it, which will be this basically the roadmap doc that you do with each person. You will add it here. In that case, actually, I will change this to roadmap doc. And you just put the link here, right? And so you can access it quickly. Then you have the status, okay? And the status is a drop down. You have 8 potential statuses, okay? You have step 1, step 2, and step 3. This is the steps in your process, okay? I recommend you to have a 3-step formula process inside of your program, and we'll talk about that in a second, which allows people to go through those 3 and become successful, okay? A lot of people have like pillars, and that's all right, or they have nothing and they just kind of do consulting. That can be possible, that can work, but I personally recommend you to have a clear 3-step process, even if you have to create it from scratch and force it a little bit, because it gives people a timeline and it gives you an idea if they're progressing properly or not. Okay. After that, you have canceled in case somebody decides not to continue, right? They will just stop paying you and they will cancel. Ideally, this doesn't happen, but sometimes it does. Out of 200 clients, you'll probably have one that will cancel. Then you have paused. Pause meaning somebody who is displaying a flag and they ask you to pause, right? That they don't have the money, or something happened in their life that they need to pause for a little bit before returning. You have graduated, which is once they go through the 3 steps. Then you have the resign offered, meaning you actually hopped on the call on the graduation call and you offered the backend. And then resign is when they actually accepted that backend offer. So that's for status. Inside of flags, we have 3 main flags. Okay. We have delayed money, complaint, or ghost. Now, if they don't have any flags, right? If the people don't have flags, you just select and then delete. Okay. Actually, not that. Delete if they have something, right? You delete it. So what do these mean? Well, basically, each of these has a different purpose. Delayed money is when they're late on paying you money. Okay. That's when, yeah, they should, there's an amount that they were supposed to pay like a week ago or something, but they haven't. Okay. And the descriptions of each flag are inside of head coach SOPs. Complaint, we'll get to that in a second. So complaint is when they're actually complaining, actively talking to you, saying, "Hey, I don't like this, I don't like that, I'm not getting results, blah blah blah." All those things are complaints. Okay. And then you have ghost, which is when they completely ghost you. So we'll get into each of those and when to use them. But basically, that's to keep track of people that as soon as something goes wrong, you put up a flag until it's resolved, and then you can remove it. Okay. Now, the next thing is a contract is what did you agree on in terms of money, right? Well, they agreed to pay 6 times $1,000, right? Something like that. Or they paid in full, or 2 times $3,000, right? And you put that here so you keep track of the contract. Here you keep track of how much you've collected already, so you keep adding based on how much they've paid you. And then you have the next payment here, which could be something like for a Feb, right? Well, actually, that's beyond 4 already, but let's say 4th of March, and then the payment amount. Okay. But the contract will tell you like what the next payment is. So you can leave it there, or you can add it here as well. And then you have a note section to add any kind of notes you might need from the flags, from the next payments, or anything like that. Okay. It's a very simple sheet. This is all you need for a sheet. Trust me, like I've really thought about this. So you don't need more than this. This is how you track it. Okay. Now let's move on to the next thing. Next thing is the roadmap client. Okay, template. So what is this? This is the onboarding document that you need in order to get them through your program. Okay. Um, and this is very important because it will set the expectations and it will allow you to follow basically a script inside of the onboarding call that is going to keep you organized, and you're going to make sure to cover everything that is necessary. Okay. So here are all the things that you need, right? First of all, you have an onboarding list, to-do list that you have to check off before you continue the process. Okay. You want to make sure that if you have an agreement that they've signed the agreement. Okay. You want to make sure that they have access to the training platform, meaning the course, right? So they can watch the videos, and they also have access to the community, and you can change this based on whatever else you have that they need access to. Okay. Once these are checked off, now we go to the drivers. The drivers are the motivations, right? The reasons why they're doing this, why they're going on this journey. Because if you don't know why you're doing something, like eventually it's going to get hard and you're not going to want to continue. So it's very important to have these. So it's made of 4 parts, right? The first one is what made you join the program, right? What are the logical goals? Well, I want to get to 10K. I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to, find a boyfriend, find a girlfriend. I want to, solve my injury. There's so many different things, right? Typically, it's inside of the health, wealth, relationships niches. Now, once you have the logical goals, right, that people want to reach, that should be 1, 2, or 3. Now you want to set the vision, right? What would change about your life if you achieve those goals? Like, why do you want to achieve those goals? And that will tell you the vision, right? What do you want? What they want their life to look like because they achieve that, right? If they make 10K per month or 30K or 50K per month, what exactly is that going to change in their life, right? Why is it so important for them to make that much? Well, they're going to be able to retire their mother. They're going to be able to travel all the time. They're going to be able to get their time back and be able to do whatever they want. All their hobbies that they've been wanting to do for years, they finally can do them. All of these things are visions, right? Which are related to the goals, but they're expansions on the goal and are like deeper meanings of why we do things, right? So you'll put here the list as well, right? You'll write it here and then write something else, okay? And then the next thing is to do cost of inaction and opportunity cost. Now, this is super important because you want them to feel a reason to do this that is not just the goals and the vision. It's the reason what happens if they don't change that, right? Because a lot of times it's more motivating, as you might know, to run away from something than to actually run towards something. And so because of that, we want to also list that out, right? What happens if they don't make 10K per month? What happens if in 2 years they're still in the same position, right? What happens then? And then from there, we just write out the list, right? They're going to be stuck in their 9 to 5. They're going to be, die earlier. They're going to, not be able to inspire their kids to be more athletic. All of these things, you just put them here so they can really have perspective on what happens, what's the worst case scenario, which is super important. And then finally, you want to ask them, do you commit to these goals, right? Do you commit to this list in order to do whatever it takes in order to reach that? And then you get your commitment. Next thing is the journey, okay? This you want to change these titles, okay? Remove all of this and just add the titles of your own offer, right? And add also the graduation date here, okay? And this date is going to be based on when they started, right? When you're having the onboarding call and going through this based on the length of your program, right? If it's 12 weeks, it's 12 weeks. If it's 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, okay? You'll add a date here so they have an idea. Now, based on that, you'll also want to add the number of weeks required per step, typically, in order for them to have an idea of how long it will take. Okay. And then the titles here, right? So let's say first stage is skill, second stage is finding a position, and third stage is ramping up in the position. Or first stage is assessing the situation of the problem of the injury. Second stage is creating a program to fix the injury, and then third stage is increasing the performance based on that. That's one of my clients actually. It's a similar offer to that. Another example is first stage is take care of individual of the person, right? Let's say it's a relationship offer. Second stage is getting them out there and getting them, attention in terms of like dates and stuff like that. And then third stage is to learn how to convert those dates into actual, consistently into actual potential girlfriend candidates, okay, or boyfriend candidates. So that's pretty much it, right? Just add the steps, and then every time they finish a step, you have a call with them, and you check off one of these boxes, right? The next box. So because you explained to them already, right? And then obviously in the first call, you also want to explain the deliverables, right? You want to explain what is included. You can change this based on that, right? And then at the end, you want to make sure you ask again, do you commit to this accountability structure and to communicate when lost or happy? This is super important because more than likely, 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks in, 8 weeks in, it all depends on the program you have. There will be a breaking point. Okay. There will be a breaking point where they will consider to stop because maybe they've gotten a couple wins, but just not enough to keep going. And so their mindset is going to come in and it's going to think maybe is going to make them think, well, maybe I should change it to something else. And because of that, you want to get this commitment so that you can call them out in that moment and help them overcome that by reminding them of the goals and what it takes to actually succeed. Okay. That's super important. Once they commit, then you have the next steps, which is send the next steps and book the 30-day check-in call, right? I recommend you to have a call 30 days after the beginning of each step, right? But especially after the onboarding call. Ask them if they have any questions, and if it's relevant, you ask a testimonial. And this would be more so when actually, don't bother with this. Basically, these are the next step, the next steps that you have to do, which is send them the next steps and book the 30-day check-in call, and then ask them if they have any questions. Okay. And actually, let's separate this to make it easier to read. There we go. Boom. That's pretty much it. Okay. That's how you want to run an onboarding call and all the calls afterwards, check-in calls that we call it that, in order for you to stay organized and know exactly what you need to cover with them to not have any issues during the ramp up process with the client. The next thing that we want to look at is the head coach tasks. Okay. The third one. So now these are all the tasks, including now also the client journey and the template messages. Okay. But those assist the tasks basically. Okay. So there are four main tasks. Okay. These are the flags and they're all part of the same group basically. But Number one is the one-on-one chat. Okay. The one-on-one chat is the process is you talking to them one-on-one if you offer that in your program, which I highly recommend, where they can talk to you, they can ask you questions and see if there's anything wrong. Okay. And this allows you to kind of stay in touch with them and yeah, just see if there's anything that pops up and anything in particular that they need help with. What do you have to do there? Right. What I recommend is that you want to answer messages daily, 2 times per day. Okay. So what that looks like is that you want to schedule in your calendar, and I already put this in the first module, right? How to organize your calendar, but you want to have 2 30-minute blocks where you answer messages from delivery, okay? And you put them one in the beginning of your day and one more towards the end of your day, okay? To make sure you cover everybody's questions. Then the next thing is send daily the one-on-one template messages, and this is based on how people are advancing through the process. Template messages are exactly based on the process, and if they're getting certified or passing to the next stage, you want to send the messages to not only grow the engagement of the community, but also to reward the person directly one-on-one. Okay, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then ultimately, you want to check in with clients over chat um, on Mondays and Thursdays. Okay. What this looks like is just asking them, hey, how's everything going? Is there anything I can help you with? Are you still motivated? Do you still remember why you're doing this? Things like that. And that's more on Mondays. And on Thursdays is like, how was your week so far? Were you able to do the things that you said you were going to do starting on Monday and all those things? Anything I can help you with, all right? Ways to just check in to make sure you show that you care about them, right? So they feel like they're a big part of it is honestly making people feel like they're being taken care of. That's really the most important thing. That's one of them. And then the other one is actually solving any issues that come up, both mindset issues, which is actually 80%, and then 20% execution technical issues. Okay. And so you want to keep up with those by reaching out to them proactively, or else what happens is that a lot of times people don't reach out to you because they feel embarrassed, or I don't know, they just don't have the habit of asking for help. And so then the relationship just dies off. They feel like you don't care, and because of that, they don't want to continue. So even if they finish the program, they're not going to resign, and that's not good. So if you actually reach out to everybody on Mondays and Thursdays, they're going to feel engaged, happy. They're going to expect you to reach out, and they're going to thank you for that as well, right? So super important. Next thing is to update the client tracking daily, right? Whatever happens with your clients, changes in graduation dates based on what they're asking you. This probably will stay the same. The statuses, the flags, contract will stay the same probably. Collecting next payment perhaps different, and then the notes. You want to make those changes in case there's anything, okay? Just to keep things organized. Next thing is to do screenshot wins, okay? Meaning like in your community you're probably going to have people sharing their wins and stuff like that, and so you want to screenshot those wins and make sure that you keep them somewhere, right? And what I would do is put it in your Google Drive, as we explained, right, in the folder called testimonials inside of your acquisition folder, right? So acquisition, then inside of it you have testimonials, and you can use that for your marketing. Super important. I would do that once per week. Don't do it every day because you don't have to. You can batch it and do it all at once. And you can put that on your stories as well to plan it out and all that. Next thing is add delayed. These are the flags. Okay. So that's the last thing you have to do, which is 3 main flags. Again, delayed payment, complaint, and ghost. Right. So you only put delayed payment when it's a late payment and you are talking to them actively. Okay. If you are not if you're not talking to them, right? If they're not responding to you, it's not a delayed payment. It's after already 7 days, it becomes a ghost, because a ghost is worse, right? A ghost is both a complaint and a delayed payment combined, potentially, right? And so because of that, you want to it's a worse situation. And obviously, once they come back, if you see that clearly they haven't paid, then you also have to take care of the money. But that's for people that are actively responding to you, but simply there's late payment, and you're trying to agree on a new plan. Okay. Now the next thing is complaint, right? So add a complaint flag if they blame you or are frustrated or don't follow our advice. Okay. Your advice, meaning if they're like actively blaming, which is not really a good trait to have, then you want to add the flag. If they're frustrated, clearly, right? Even if it's like even if it's like just frustration part of the process, but just to make sure, right, that you're on top of them, you can add the flag just to keep track of them. And then third is if they don't follow your advice. This is a big one, right? Because they paid you for a reason, right? So if they're not following your advice and they're not doing the things you told them to do, like they're not going to get the results. And so that's going to soon turn into blaming and frustration and all that, right? So you want to catch it very early. So when that happens, especially when it's like blaming you already or getting to a place where they're not following your advice and are frustrated with you or themselves, you want to send this voice in a voice message. Okay, this is important. Sometimes, it's best to send in the text because maybe they're also sending text and they're not really responding to voice messages. But ideally, you send in the voice message. So I would say something like, totally get you. And honestly, it's a pretty normal situation to happen. And I understand why you'd feel that way, right? Empathy, right? This is normal. Like you want to make them feel like they're not special. They're somehow different. No, it's like most people experience this in the process. So it's okay for you to be frustrated. Like we're not going to judge you. Second is I do have to take responsibility for this as well, and I should have done mistake better. Okay, this is where you take accountability, responsibility, because as well as you might be doing the process, there's always things you're going to slip through. And honestly, unless you onboarded somebody who's not a good client, it's usually your fault, right? If somebody's not getting results or if they're not going through the process properly, there might take a little bit longer, and that's okay, but it's usually because something slipped. If you have a specific pace that people want to follow, and if they're not going on that pace, and because of that they're not getting results, well, that's an issue of making sure they're keeping up with that pace. Now there's always things that are outside of our controls, right? Clients that are not active, but I see a lot of people out there just blaming their clients when they're just not amazing coaches. So that's okay. I mean, if you want to do that, I understand it, but if you could just take responsibility and make sure that you become the best version of you as possible, then you will know for sure that if somebody's not doing the work and they're not getting results, it's because of them. And that's the best feeling ever because you can sleep sound at night, right? You charge somebody a high ticket amount of money and they're not doing the work, even though you're trying with all your SOPs to get them to do the work, they're not. And I mean, there's not much you can do, right? So that's about it. And then you want to then ask them a question. Do you think there's a chance we can do something together to fix this, right? And get their commitment somehow. Then after that, you want to send them a second message, which is if it's helpful, it would be great if we could hop on a call and see what we can do to help figure out the best path. Does it work for you to hop on a call, right? And get their commitment. Always handle complaints on the call, not over text. Trust me. Like it's just going to be back and forth. You're not going to be able to handle that. It's just not good. Okay. So that's the next thing. The third flag is ghost. Okay. If you have no updates for 7 days, right? You've been doing the Monday and Thursday messages, you've been doing everything correctly, and they haven't gotten back to you in 7 days, then you want to start the 7 day process that I have in order to get them back on the process. Okay. So this is the type of message that you want to send in the first 4 days, which is something like, what's up, name? This is your name, which is you. I hope you're doing great. Just reaching out here because I haven't heard from you in a while. I get that life can get busy sometimes. I'm here for support if you need it and looking forward to having you back on track with the program soon. Okay. This is a very good message. It's proven. I've done this, I've sent this a lot of times. And you want to do this in a 4 day sequence. You want to send it on Instagram and the one on one on Slack or Discord or whatever platform you're using. Some people use School. That's okay too. It's not, it really doesn't matter which one you use as long as you get your stuff, your community working. Then day two, you want to send an email, an SMS, and a WhatsApp message in case you're outside of the US or Canada, although in Canada, some people use it more. Then day three, you want to do 2 calls in one day. This is important. Most people run away from calls because it's like it's uncomfortable, right? I don't want to call somebody that's ghosting me. But trust me, sometimes it just takes you calling somebody. And I've had literally clients call people that were ghosting them and they literally answer him. It's like, hey, I'm really sorry. Like I was just going through some family issues, but I'm definitely back on track. I can make this happen. And they come in, they pay the rest of the program, which they probably wouldn't have, and they resume the process, and they get the results, which ultimately is what matters the most. So do that 2 days in a row, call them twice. So what I would do is call them 2 times right there in the moment, double dial them because that's going to increase the chances of them responding. Now, once those 4 days are over and you haven't gotten any answer, right? Obviously, as you go through the days, if you get any answer, don't like, yeah, don't call them anymore or message them anymore if they're already back in the program. So it's only if they don't answer you, you keep going through the days. If you've gone through the 4 days, you haven't gotten any answer. Now you go to stage through, which is the last 3 days, and you send something like this: "Hey, name, I'd love to keep helping you, but I haven't heard back from you. So I'll put you on active pause in 48 hours, 24 hours, or today if you don't get back to me. But you can always come back." Okay. So this gives them an ultimatum in a way, but in a way that it's like, hey, it's no big deal. I'll just put you in an active pause. So you're not canceling. It doesn't feel like, it's disruptive. But also you're kind of drawing a line of what the behavior should be, right? And you're giving them a timeline, right? So each of these days, you should say, and the day 5, you should say 48 hours. Day 6, you should say 24 hours. And day 7 should be today. Okay. Um, and and then you put them on an active pause, and that's it, right? Once you're done with this. And you want to send that message inside of all of these platforms, right? One on Instagram, one on email, one on SMS, one on Slack, Discord, and school, and one on WhatsApp. And you just want to put it out there. You don't need to call them. It's just like if they're not getting back to you at this point, it's because they don't want to. And so whatever happens after this, it's okay. But this is a pretty good message. And then once you reach say day 7, you just put them on active pause, and that's it. You go to the client tracker, put them, keep the flag of ghost. That's fine, and then change this to pause. And that's it. You don't worry about that person anymore. If they get back to you in the future, great. You just get them back into the process. You renegotiate how you want to do that with that person, depending on how long they've been away and all that stuff. You can even just unpause from the moment they left. But at least you're not thinking about them. That's the goal of this. It's like you don't have to think, oh, I should follow up with this person. Oh, I should reach out to them. Oh, what's happening with this person? No, you have a clear guideline of what you have to do. And the last thing you want to do is once you're done with this process is to keep talking to them or keep reaching out to them. It's not worth it. It's just going to waste your time. So just follow this. Okay. So that's it for tasks. Next thing is the client journey. So what you want to do is write out here exactly and more in detail, more than your offer itself, what exactly is your process with them. Okay. And this will show you exactly like what you're expecting people to do. And it could even get to the point where these sub points actually require, like, they have levels in between that you can accurately track. And because of that, you can add another column here on the right side that is called levels. Okay. And the levels are basically the sub steps. Let's even call it that, sub steps within the main steps, right? Step 1, 2, 3. So, and these will have offered obviously different, and they'll have like step 1 dash um, onboarding, step 2, step 1 dash, and so you see it's just like the sub steps are the same. And if you need it, of course, just reach out to me and we'll create that together. But that, besides that, the most important thing is making sure you have a clear guideline of the weeks as they go by, what the person has to do, how long each step should take, and if they're behind or ahead of pace, that should be noted here, because then they will not hit their graduation date. It will be later. So if they're behind, right? If they're ahead, that's perfect, obviously. But if they're behind, you want to ask them if they're okay with that, right? Sometimes it takes longer, that's okay. But or if you have a very strict line of like, no, you shouldn't go past the 3 months, then well, you want to keep that in mind, or else you're gonna take forever. So you do the 3 steps here, and then you have the deliverables at the end, right? And you want to do this first, and then come to me, and we'll improve this, and I'll review it for you. And then you have deliverables as well. Okay, so these are all the things that you do during the process, right? One-on-one call per week or something like that. Finally, we have the template messages. Okay, what is this? So the template messages are the messages you want to send when big events or things happen within your process, within this process of the client journey. Okay, so what does this mean, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3, for example, when they cross one of those marks, right? When they finish step 1, for example, and go into step through 2, you want to add, like, you want to send them a message in the one-on-one chat, right? And you want to send them a message inside of the community, right? And the reason for that is because you just want to make them feel welcome. You want them to feel excited about their journey, about what happened. And so because of that, you want to send these messages. Okay. And these are very important because it gives you the most important thing that people need is to have next steps. Okay. If they're just in your program and they have a course that they have to watch and they have a general guideline of what they have to do, that's a good start, obviously. But the problem with that is people get lost so easily. If you don't break it down, like for you, the whole process might be simple, right? Oh yeah, just have to work on this, work on that. Even for that, like most people, you probably would get lost in your own process. So what you want to do is make it as easy as possible. So at all times, the person needs to be clear on what steps they have to do next and how to do them. That's it, right? How to do them is answered inside of the course that you can create. But what steps is your job by sending these messages right after they accomplish something and they need new things to do, right? So you can send them in the one-on-one chats, and you want to alter these based on the situation, right? So, for example, congratulations on getting certified, right? Customized message to make it more personal. I know you've gone a long way, and I know you were dealing with a lot of this is the one-on-one chat, right? So you can be a bit more personal. I know you were dealing with some deaths in the family and with your own health, but you were able to push through, which is amazing. So congratulations. At now, it's time to step up as a leader and help others in their footsteps. From here, book your step two roadmap call, and here's the link, right? And that's one step. If you want more steps, you can actually create like a whole list of steps that they have to go through, right? From that step one, step two. Okay. So that will help you. And then in the community, obviously, you won't have the steps, but you'll have the recognition, right? People who love public recognition. It's super important, especially if they really invest in the community. The most important thing, though, is you want to list the reasons why they succeeded, right? Why they achieved the step and why they're going to the next level, not what they achieved, which is getting certified, getting a first client, losing X amount of pounds. It's why they were able to achieve that, because most programs and people out there are rewarding people based on the outcomes, which is not a bad thing, right? You do want to reward winners and you want to reward like active behavior. But most importantly, you want to reward the behavior that creates that. So if somebody works their ass off like every single day reaching out to people to get clients, every single day doing exactly what you told them to do, that is the perfect client because eventually they will get results, right? As long as they keep tweaking. But the person that gets lucky or, they're just capitalizing on the work they did 6 months ago and it was just a follow-up sale, that person shouldn't get as much recognition because just because they got a sale, right? But people look at that because that's the end goal that people want, of course. But that's not what we're aiming for. What we're aiming for is to become the person that does the tasks every day, no matter what, no matter the outcome, and that eventually will reproduce in an outcome, right? That we're looking for. But that should just be celebrated because we want that, of course, but not because of the outcome, but because of it finally paid off the work we put in. That should be the main reason, right? And that's a great way to build a community where people don't feel like they're behind because the only reason why they feel like they're behind is because they're not putting in the work. That's it. But they're not behind because they don't get results because nobody's rewarded for that. They're rewarded for the work they put in. And so they'll only feel inadequate when they're not putting the work in. That's it. And you'll have to deal with that, of course, still, but it's a lot better than, oh, I'm behind because I haven't gotten any sales this month. Well, let's look at the work. While you've been putting the work, well, then great. Success, right? And if we're not getting results yet, well, maybe it's something in the work that we have to change, but the act of doing the work should be rewarded, right? And you want to do that basically for every single part, right? And especially when you have, for example, the roadmap call done, which is the onboarding call, you want to send them the next steps here so they know exactly what to do. Same thing for step two, right? Roadmap call done, send them the steps. Same thing for step three, right? And this will change. So I'm not even going to suggest anything particularly. So you basically just have to do whatever makes sense for your niche. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Those are the template messages, and that's what you have to do. Now, the final thing is going to be the graduation script. Okay. Once everybody or once a person has gone through the whole process and has you gone through all the steps and they're finally here in step three, right? And they've graduated, right? Outcome and roadmap call done. For step three, then what you want to do is to yeah, you just want to, and this is actually something I should create as well, which is graduation here. Graduation, right? Graduation. Once they've accomplished this, is to basically get them on a call, right? You want them to book the graduation call. Okay. They will hop on a call with you, right? I recommend at least 30 minutes for this call. Um, Perhaps an hour could be better, actually, and or 45 minutes. Then eventually you can taper that down. Okay, so you need an event inside of your Calendly in order to serve this. Something simple, right? Nothing major. Now, there are four main sections of this call. Okay. You have the connecting session section, you have the testimonial section, the transition, and then the continuation offer section. Okay. Let's go over each. Okay. The connecting is just seeing where they're at. Why you ask things like, hey, how are you? Cool. By the way, congratulations on finishing the program. Do you have any questions? Remember that these two slashes mean like either or, right? You can say that you don't have to. But that's basically it. So, just congratulate them, connect them a little bit. Do you have any questions? Anything I can still help you with? Blah blah. And then you finish that with the question, which is, how would you mind if we did a short interview about your experience to use it as a testimonial? So the better their experience inside of the program, the more likely they are to say yes to this, right? And so, yeah, ideally they say yes, right? So you need to do a good job in the delivery in order for them to give you this. So you want to ask this every time because the more testimonials you have, the better, obviously, right? So it's super important. So the next thing is you do the testimonial, right? You're probably recording the call, so you can just jump straight into it. They don't have to prepare too much, and you just guide them throughout the call, right? So what that looks like is basically, hi, name, had an honor and pleasure to serve you during the last 3 months. It's been quite a journey. Could you share a bit more about what you do and where you're from, right? Just to give them an introduction on the person. Um, what was your situation before working with me, and why did you decide to invest in this program? What has changed, and how do you feel now facing your next challenges with the new knowledge? And what would have happened if you decided to do nothing about your situation? So it's basically like problem, right? What was the problem before? What have you accomplished now, and what would have happened if you hadn't joined, right? What would have happened if you hadn't changed nothing about your situation? And then finally, it's if someone is watching this and on the fence about working with us, like what would you say to them, right? That's it. You can add more questions, remove if you want to, but I would recommend to keep these. Just do that, and eventually you can make it more complex and make it your own. Next thing is you want to transition, okay? Meaning, like, it's kind of awkward. It would be awkward if you just said, okay, you want to keep working together, right? Like that would be a bit too forced, but you want to transition into the continuation offer. And what is a continuation offer? Okay, this is very important. A continuation offer is not a mastermind. Okay, it's not an upsell. It's nothing like that. It's just another offer that you sell on the back end is a continuation offer. That's it. Not an upsell, nothing like that. It's just something you sell to them that gets them to continue with you as a client. Okay. It's usually a recurring amount, which is 10 to 33% of the original amount. So if you charge 5K, it's going to be $500 up to a third of it, which would be around 1,800 more or less per month. Okay. I would say start on the lower end and then raise it as you go. You can even go lower than $500 in the beginning just to get a few people in. But the reason why we do this is we want to build back end recurring revenue, right? Now, the last thing you want to do is create a mastermind offer because that's too complicated. Like something that's like 15, 20K, 30K, that's just too complicated at in this point in your business. And instead you want to have something that is easier to sell, right? Something that is just a no-brainer, and it's a recurring amount every single month that you can just collect from all the people that finish. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You don't lose the person after 3 to 6 months of the initial coaching program, right? And you did all this work to, give them the results and get them in as a client, and now you just lose them. But at the same time, you're not trying to get them into this huge package, which is eventually harder to sell. It's a whole different process and program. So you need to kind of create a whole process around that. And ultimately, it's that's it. Those are two issues. It's harder to sell, and it's like this whole other product that you have to be distracted by. Instead, a continuation offer, it's literally just the same offer that you've done until now, but continuing the same pillars, the same things, deliverables that got them the results that they've gotten now, and get them to the next stage by just continuing to do those things. That's it, really it, right? So what you want to set here with this first line is, so basically what we do is help Avatar, which is still the same person, but now the new Avatar, right? Which is somebody who has lost 50 pounds, and now we help them build muscle. Okay. Fix the next pain or hit the next goal. Okay. Fix next pain or hit the next goal. Okay. So what we do is help somebody who's now at 10K per month to get to 30K per month, right? In the next, in I guess in the next 12 months. Okay. Something like that. That is the next thing, right? Now, instead of selling this as a step-by-step process, now you want to sell it as a three-pillar process. And the reason for that is because it no longer probably is a sequential thing that they have to do, but instead is more of a maintenance type of growth, type of structure that they need in order to continue getting results and scale from there. So you want to divide that based on the pillars that you think are most important, right? That could be like the community, the course, and it could be the support. Or you could also divide it in terms of like what are the pillars that they need in order to scale, right? So um, if it's like a money offer, it could be something like, well, you're going to need to recreate your offer again, or optimize your offer. You're going to need to hire a team. And then the third thing is you're going to need to work on your delivery, something like that, right? If it's a fitness offer, right, you need to create a muscle building program now. You need to fix your diet to go on a bulk. And then thirdly, you need to insert cardio as well, right? Different types of cardio, things like that, right? You can do the three pillars like that in order to explain now the three components on the back end and what they need moving forward. Okay. And this could literally be the same thing that there's in the front end, but put into simpler terms and put into like just the same thing, just copy it and make it look a little bit more like it's for the future and for the next goal. Okay. And then you obviously end it with a statement where you focus on, this is where you go from where you are now to the desires, to the offer and then desires, right? That you just established. Obviously, give them a little bit of space. Do a temp check. This one a little bit different. It's more of like, how do you feel that this would be able to help you get to goal, right? You need to get certainty. Uh, if they're certain, then you ask them why. If uncertain, you want to ask them what's keeping you from being uncertain and solve that objection. And then you price drop, right? And this should be again 10%, 10 to 33%. Should be 10% to 10 to 30% of initial amount. Okay. And you can cancel anytime. This is very important as well. So it doesn't feel like people are committed to anything anymore. But if you do this well, if you deliver really well, and you have a very good process and a very good offer in the back end, which you can create and then we'll review it together, it will be a very attractive offer, and it will be easy to sign people. So that's pretty much it. That's the entire process. That's the four pillars of delivery. If you want help with this, just do all these things and then ask me for advice. And yeah, have an amazing day, and hope this works out for you. But this was very powerful for me, and when I was personally a head coach for somebody else, and also now in my own program, so I know it's going to work for you. And yeah, just excited to see how you implement this. And yeah, have an amazing week.